Okay, example 3 tells us to solve a real-world inequality. So let's look at what this might look like. Ariana is designing a raised garden bed to be 3 feet wide. Because of the cost of materials, the perimeter of the bed can be at most 20 feet. Find and solve an inequality that describes her limitations for the length of the bed. Now, anytime we have a word problem that brings up geometry terms like perimeter or area or circumference or something like that, it's always helpful to draw a little diagram, a little picture, right? So she's going to build a raised garden bed, and she wants it to be 3 feet wide. So we know these ends here are going to be 3 feet wide. The perimeter of the bed can be at most 20 feet. So we remember that perimeter is all the way around like this, and it can be at most 20 feet. Can it be bigger than 20 feet? No. Can it be 20 feet? Yes. Can it be smaller than 20 feet? Yes. But no more than 20 feet. So let's think about how we find perimeter if we have a rectangle. The formula for perimeter is just adding all sides, but when we have a rectangle, we generally just say 2 times the length plus 2 times the width will give us the perimeter. And we know the width already, right? We know that the width is going to be 3. We don't know the length. And we know that the perimeter is going to be at most 20. So let's think about that phrase, at most 20. It can be smaller than or equal to 20. So we're going to use lesser than or equal to as our inequality symbol. And what's our end result? 20. Now, we're going to say 2L plus 2 times 3, because we know that the width is 3 feet. And we'll do this multiplication here first. So now we have 2L plus 6 is less than or equal to 20. Now we have a 2-step inequality. So the first thing we want to undo is the addition or subtraction. We have 6 being added, so we'll subtract 6 from both sides, and that leaves us with 2L is less than or equal to 14. And now we need to divide both sides by 2. And that gives us L less than or equal to 7. Now, did we need to reverse our inequality symbol? No, because we divided both sides by a positive integer, not a negative integer. And we came up with length being less than or equal to 7. So let's check that out. If we have a length of 7, 7 plus 3 makes 10. 7 plus 3 is 10. 10 and 10 makes 20. So if she does a raised bed that's 3 feet wide and 7 feet long, the perimeter would be exactly 20 feet. Now she can go smaller than 7 feet if she wants to. She could go 6.5, 6, 5, whatever she chooses to do. But any bigger than 7 for the length, and she's going to get a perimeter that's larger than 20. Let's look at example 4. This is another real-world inequality. Tyler received a 91 and an 84 on his first 2 math tests. He would like to know what score he needs on his 3rd test so that his test average is at least a 90. Find and solve an inequality that describes his goal. So let's think through what we know. Tyler has made a 91 and a 94. No, 84. A 91 and 84. And on his 3rd test, which is unknown to us, so we're going to say X is his grade right now, he wants those 3 tests to give him an average of 90. So let's think through. how do we find average? Remember that we add what we have, add the pieces of data that we have, and then we divide that sum or that total by the number of data pieces that we added together. We're going to have 3 data pieces because he has 3 test grades, right? So we're going to divide by 3 to find the average. Now Tyler wants his test average to be at least a 90. So is he okay with making more than a 90? Yes. He's also okay with making just a 90. Is he okay with his average being below 90? No. Good for Tyler. So let's set up an equation here where the average is greater than or equal to 90. We've already talked about the method for finding average. We add our data pieces, 91 plus 84 plus x, and then we divide that total by the number of data pieces we added. So we're going to divide by 3. Now in this numerator here, we can simplify. We have parentheses, which tells us that's a group, and we can always simplify within grouping symbols. So let's start by simplifying within our grouping symbol by adding 91 and 84 together. And that's going to give us 175 plus x divided by 3, and this is greater than or equal to 90. Now we need to start undoing the processes that are being done to our variable. Normally we start by undoing addition or subtraction first, but that's still inside a grouping symbol. So do you see how we need to first multiply by 3 to get rid of the fraction, and then we will simplify, or we'll use inverse operation within the grouping. So the first thing we want to do is multiply this side by 3 over 1 so that that cancels, and we're left with 175 plus x. If we multiply by 3 on the left, we also need to multiply by 3 on the right. So now our equation reads 175 plus x is greater than or equal to 270. We want to isolate our variable, so the next thing that we need to do is subtract 175 from both sides. So we'll have a positive 175 and a negative, and they'll just cancel each other out. And if we subtract 175 over here, we need to do the same over here. 270 minus 175 will give us 95. So we can see that Tyler needs to make at least a 95. He can make anything greater than 95, and he'll still get an average of a 90 or greater. But if he makes lower than a 95 on his third test, his average is not going to be an A anymore. It's going to drop below 90. All right, let's look at our assignment for this lesson. We are going to do 1 through 9 all. Let me write this down. Do what? Okay, I'll get them in just a second. Let me finish this video. And then we are going to do 11 through 15 odd. We're going to do 18 through 28 even. Then let's do problem 32. Problem 35 and 37, and then the cumulative review, which is 42 through 51. Now let's talk about the instructions. So for problems 1 through 6, it says state whether the inequality symbol is or is not to be reversed within the solution. Do not solve. So we're not actually working these and coming up with an answer. We're just looking at that equation and thinking, for my final step, am I going to be multiplying or dividing by a negative integer? If so, then my inequality symbol is going to have to be reversed. So your answers to 1 through 6 are either going to be reverse, don't reverse, or is not, yes, no, something of that sort. Then problems 7, 8, and 9, you're going to pick the possible graph out of the blue box. Which graph would work as an answer, as a solution to these different equations. Now you can interpret the graph. For instance, graph A, it doesn't have a number value, but the open circle with arrows going in both directions. Remember, we learned that's how we graph things that are not equal to. And none of our equations have a not equal to symbol. So graph A obviously would not be a correct answer choice. Graph B means that we would have something greater than. Do any of our equations have a greater than symbol? No, they don't. Graph C would mean that our answer would end up being greater than or equal to. Do we have an equation with a greater than or equal to? We don't, but it's possible that something will reverse because we do have two symbols that could potentially reverse and become greater than or equal to. So we have to consider that when we are trying to determine which graph would possibly match our equations. And then on page 264, problems 11, 13, and 15, they give you a solution. Problem 11, they tell you F equals 11. Now F equals 4. Now you need to put 4 in F's place and see if that makes a true number sentence. If you say 4 divided by 2 and then you add 5, do you get a number that is less than or equal to 8? If so, then F being 4 is a viable solution for this inequality. If you don't get a true number sentence, then it's not a good solution for this inequality. And then the rest of the lesson is just solving the equalities, solving and graphing the inequalities, and then writing an equation from the word problems, and then solving those inequalities after you write the equation. And think through your answer. Does this answer make sense based on the information that I was given? That'll help you know if your process was correct.